Thanks everybody for coming up to this very first Scrum Chat. This is an idea that Aaron had a few weeks ago, and we've put this together. I've been interested in pursuing the Agile Analysis certification, much like what Marnie has said. Been doing this for a while, but sometimes people like to see the letters after your name. And from what I've been seeing about IIBA in general and on this certification in specific, IIBA has a way of handling things that is a broader context than some of the other major credentialing places that we see across the country. We are not focused only on the duration of the project, but things that happen before and after. And when you look at the scope of this certification, it includes some of that broader reaching thought than what you probably are thinking of with Agile, which is solely on delivery, is what most people think of when they think of Agile. So I've been in IT for over 30 years. I started in 2013 in Agile. I got my first job in Agile, answering the interview question of how do you define a requirement, and they're trying to fish for the traditional user story format. And I answered them about 3 or 4 different ways of describing the inputs and outputs. And finally, I've realized I must be missing something. And I literally said, tell me what the magic words are, and I'll fill it into that format. And I got the job. So I am a CBAP certified, like Aaron said. I've been that since 2016. I've had Agile projects. Everybody knows that Agile projects are small, little projects that you can define easily. Well, I've had them up to $2.5 million lasting a year and a half. So, you know, some of that is not, some of that perception is not based in the reality. And yes, there is a business analyst role for Agile. Most people think that it's only the Scrum Master, the teams, and the product owners. I've had clients from health insurance, life insurance, public sectors, major accounting firm, and I'm currently also preparing for the IIBA-AAC, as well as developing my own curriculum for preparing for studying this. We're also researching other providers to develop a course that we will be presenting over the summer for people to sign up. The dates and times for that are yet to be determined, but it will be sometime this summer that we will be offering a course to prepare for the exam. So why Agile Analysis? One of the things that we see from IIBA is Agile attempts to resolve several different issues that have traditionally come in project management. One is the ability to manage changing priorities, the ability to have better project visibility, better business and IT alignment, faster delivery and speed to market, and increased team productivity. All of that are things that are addressed with the Agile mindset. What this certification recognizes is the development of enhanced capabilities that are inherent within all of the different Agile frameworks. We will focus on real-world scenarios on the exam. We will understand good practices and techniques and guidelines. We'll understand what drives better outcomes and understand what adds value to the customer using Agile approaches. The exam itself will be made up focusing on 4 different areas. One, they call these domains on the Agile extension version 2. And those domains are the Agile mindset, which will be about 30% of the exam, the strategy horizon. Remember what I said earlier about this being extended before the delivery. Well, we have the strategy horizon and the initiative horizon, as well as the delivery horizon. And so the strategy horizon will be about 10%, the initiative horizon will be about 25%, and the delivery horizon will be about 35% of the exam. On those areas, there will be different emphasis where we will recognize that the analyst will need to know basic knowledge for certain areas, will need to have a little bit more basic understanding of exactly how to do things on other areas. And then there are things that we have to know. You have to follow the rules of whatever the organization says, or we'll have to follow the rules of this is more prescriptive. And knowing those types of things on where we are expected to apply things and at that level, that also is defined within the Agile extension. So what's in it for me? In 2017, IIBA did a survey, and they determined that BAs with Agile experience can earn up to 30% more. So I don't know about you, but that gets my attention real fast. For businesses, obviously they're wanting this as well. I just read an article just before this meeting where somebody was talking about whether there's a talent shortage or whether there's what type of shortages they are. And this one recruiter was saying, within Agile, there is still a big shortage of experienced people to fill the gaps that they have in that area. So, of course, we'll be going over the Agile extension to the BABOK guide. So this is not the BABOK guide that we'll be going through. This is an additional book called the Agile extension. It takes the principles of BABOK and applies them to an Agile mindset. And that's its primary purpose, is to link between Agile practices and the business analyst body of knowledge, which is applicable not just to Agile, but to more traditional business analysis endeavors as well. So the requirements of the certification. Do you need to be CBAP certified? No. Do you need any other IIBA certification? No. Do you need familiarity with the BABOK version 3? Yes, you'll need to understand that there'll be a lot of discussion about the core competency model and how that relates to 7 principles of business analysis with an Agile mindset. Do you need experience with Agile methodologies? Application of Agile methodologies will be one of the focal points, but you probably will be able to get that through a couple of years of experience dealing with Agile framework of one type or another. Do you need familiarity with the Agile extension? Yes, that will be the guidebook for our discussions during exam preparation, and that will be along with your experience and how to apply different scenarios will be the focus of the exam. So what is Agile business analysis? It involves applying the Agile mindset across the project from ideation through strategy, through the initiation process, through the initiative horizon, and then on through delivery. And with that Agile mindset is this concept of inspecting and adapting. You look at everything, what you learned, you adapt to it, and what you adapt, you experiment with and get feedback from, and inspect that again, and keep on applying that, so you end up with loops of that on each of the 3 horizons and within each of the 3 horizons. So here's more example of what I'm talking about. On the strategy horizon, you'll get feedback on where does the company want to go. and we will analyze that and adapt that and explore that, and eventually that'll come into some initiatives, and we'll get feedback on that and decisions on that. Those decisions will be adapted and inspected, and we'll come out with more decisions about the requirements, the scope that we are going to achieve, how are we going to get the resources, and actually begin the project. And then we'll work on the delivery, and we'll get the feedback on the user stories. How are those constructed? Are everything defined properly so that the development team will know what is wanted, and review that with the stakeholders to make sure that everything is understood and that everything is delivered to meet those expectations. So Agile delivery planning is another topic that we'll talk about in the Agile extension. There's iterative planning. We're familiar with that within the context of Scrum or other Agile processes, where every 2, 3, 4 weeks we look at the backlog and make sure that everything is there for that iteration. And then there's adaptive planning, where what's in the backlog has been adjusted from time to time. The priorities have changed. We see a new feature that needs to be explored within this overall function. And then when you're talking about Agile delivery, it's really a combination of both, with the short cycles of iterative and the flexibility of adaptive. So some common themes of all the Agile approaches, whether you're talking about Lean or Scrum or Kanban or whatever, you're going to have incremental delivery, small slices of the solution, prioritized by value, rapid delivery, getting feedback and learning from that, and adaptability to change. Those are all themes of pretty much all of the Agile approaches that I've ever encountered. You'll see all of those themes in there. So domain one we've talked about is the Agile mindset, and that'll be based on some core common principles of respect, courage, collaboration, learning, customer focus, and value maximization. And those all come from, in one form or another, come from the Agile Manifesto. Some of the main aspects of the Agile mindset include deliver quickly, collaborate, iterate, avoid waste, consider the context and adapt, reflect on feedback and adapt again. You'll see that adapt and feedback are all the way through this. And then produce the highest quality products. So the 3 horizons, we'll be exploring those, doing deep dives into understanding what each of those 3 horizons impact, what type of work they support, what we're expecting to come out of those, what they identify, how they align with the organization, and what type of time frame are involved in each of the 3 horizons. We'll be studying that in each of the chapters of the Agile extension. In the strategy horizon, we'll be talking about things that are products and services that could benefit the organization as a whole. And what are the internal and external factors that can drive us into one set of products and services over another. In the initiative horizon, we'll be talking about taking things out of the strategy and focusing on one of those and figuring out how to define what we're really trying to get with that initiative, how to create the value that we're expecting, how to measure that value, what resources are available, understanding the stakeholder needs better, and getting some high-level functional, in a lot of times we talk about epic level understanding of what is to come out of this. Then the delivery horizon that's where you're really putting things forward. You're delivering value on each iteration, on the highest priority thing first, making sure that you're always delivering value, getting your requirements at as close to delivery as possible, so that there's elimination of rework because you're getting it as close as possible to the work actually being delivered. And of course, all of this ties to the Agile Manifesto. We'll be covering that extensively in the Agile extension, and understanding how that relates to the BACCM and to the 7 principles of Agile Analysis that we'll be talking about. One of the things that I really like about the Agile Manifesto is that very first sentence. Most people think of the left side, the part that's bolded, versus the right side, which is, you know, after the word over. But the very first sentence, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. There's a lot of experimentation in this, but with that experimentation, people are helping others to do it. So you have this whole body of knowledge of people who've gone before to do this as well. So you're experimenting because you're using things that maybe you haven't done, but other people have. So you know what can work and what will work because of their experience. And you can apply that to all of this. So one of the things that we'll be talking about is the different, excuse me, the different things that may be misconceptions about Agile. One of those things is the role of documentation. We all know that Agile doesn't have any documentation, except for it does. It probably has more than waterfall, because it's all documented in all those user stories, and all of the wireframes are developed in the ideation phase, and all of the review processes on getting the sign-offs before you even begin the work. So, and it's more defined if you're doing it the way that a lot of people have written about, then it's given credit for. It's just that it's not as upfront, it's as you go along. The documentation is just ahead of the curve of when you're actually going to be doing it. And one of the things we'll be talking about is responding to change. It's called Agile for a reason. One of the things in a former job that I had, we talked a lot about the QA curve and having quality shifting left in the process, so that if we catch things in the design phase or the implementation phase versus the UAT phase versus the maintenance phase, the cost of the project goes down significantly. You can see on this chart, which came from IBM, that you can have 100 times more cost if you catch something after it's been deployed and is implemented versus when it's in design phase. So I've talked a couple of times about the 7 principles of Agile Analysis. Those principles are: see the whole, get the big picture on that, think as a customer. We'll spend a lot of time on that. Determine what is valuable, because we're all about developing the minimum valuable product and doing the most valuable part of that minimum valuable product first. Getting real with examples, that helps you to think as a customer, because you're going through things with the customer to analyze what do they like, what do they don't like, what do we need to clarify. Understand what is doable. I always, when I think of understand what's doable, the classic triple constraint always comes to mind from PMI, the resources, the time, and the money available for that. But there can be some other things as well that can focus on that. Stimulate collaboration and continuous improvement. Again, feedback, and avoid waste. Avoid waste to me is a little bit redundant because you are always understanding what is valuable, and you're thinking as a customer, and if you do all of that, you will be avoiding waste. And we'll be exploring how that combines with the BACCM, the change, the need, the solution, the stakeholder, the value, and the context that is defined within the core competency model from BABAC. Then we'll also be covering some additional topics. The role of planning across the 3 horizons, the types of planning, predictive, iterative, and adaptive. What are the pros and cons and when you should apply those. And then we'll be doing deep dives into each of the horizons to explore the purpose, the scope, the level of detail and complexity, time frames. There's that feedback loop again. How that relates to the 7 principles and the techniques. Those techniques will be explored not only from BABAC, but also from the Agile extension. So now it's your turn. If you have any